With the announcement that Street Fighter V would be console exclusive to the PlayStation 4 and Rise of the Tomb Raider having a year-long duration on the Xbox brand, it opens up the argument to not only just exclusive games versus multi-platform games, but to console manufacturers, publishers, developers, and the gamers. It should be no shocker to anybody that the talk of exclusive games versus multi-platform games and the relevance between all of everything in between crops up a lot in the gaming industry. More often than not, when a new platform launches, it's really starving in the exclusive game category. In most cases, in-house developers spend a lot more time getting to know the tech behind these games than, let's say, a third-party publisher who makes it their goal to release the game on every single platform possible, regardless of whether or not that platform is 5 to 10 years old, like the Xbox 360 and PlayStation 3, to fresh out the womb, like the PlayStation 4 and Xbox One. And for the longest time, we've had this discussion of the relevance between exclusive games, where a developer / publisher goes out of their way to make sure this one game only appears on one platform, to multi-platform games, where a developer takes their one game and distributes it to as many platforms as possible so the most amount of people can enjoy it. But in the past couple years, we've seen the trend of dying exclusives. We've seen more developers out there who were previously console exclusive developers branching out from one platform to another. We've seen a lot of developers who were exclusive to the Sony side in the early 2000s branch over to the Xbox side. We've seen a lot of people who developed primarily on the Nintendo handhelds branch over to the Sony handhelds, and vice versa. And more recently, we've seen a lot of console exclusive developers, mainly guys in Japan, take a jab at the Steam platform, releasing such fighting games like BlazBlue. We got Dead or Alive 5 come to Steam, in addition to the newly announced Street Fighter V. And for the most part, you could say that, well, multi-platform games are a general good thing. It gives everybody out there a chance to experience this game, be it one legion, one camp, one platform that they serve their loyalty to. They're going to experience this potentially fantastic game. But that is in no way saying that exclusives are not necessary in the gaming industry. More often than not, a lot of people out there prefer exclusives, because when you have developers out there who've been working in-house with Sony, Microsoft, Nintendo for the longest time, you notice that their games are visually stunning. Comparing the games that were put out by Nintendo on the Wii to third parties on the Wii, there's just no competition when you're going up against a game that looks as breathtaking as Super Mario Galaxy, comparing it to something like Call of Duty Modern Warfare Reflex. Now, while core gamers for the most part like to say that they are pretty much console neutral, they have no real preference towards one particular platform, they play all games, that's not really true in the grand scheme of things. More often than not, when it comes to casual gamers, they really stick to purchasing one console and one console only. So if you were to go into an average household, you'd see probably a Xbox 360 and only an Xbox 360, a PlayStation 4 and only a PlayStation 4, or a Nintendo Wii and only a Nintendo Wii. While there are exceptions to the rule, and especially here on the internet, it is true, most people out there only stick to one platform for whatever reason. And that's where exclusives come in. If you're a person out there who loves playing baseball games, MLB The Show is a fantastic franchise. And to be honest, this is the only baseball game that is available right now on the market. So if you want to play baseball games, well, you're going to have to own a Sony platform. And if you're a guy who just can't get his fill out of Halo, you already know what you got to do. Exclusives are there to give people more incentive into purchasing this one platform, in addition to all the great multi-platform games that are available for it. But we start getting into a sort of gray area when it comes to multi-platform games and how they've become quasi-exclusive. In the past couple years, we've seen a lot of developers get into bed with Sony, Microsoft, Nintendo, and publish exclusive content for said systems. Now, this can range from anything small, such as downloadable content, skins, getting map packs a couple of weeks early, to outright gameplay modes being exclusive to one particular platform. Of course, at the end of the day, your mileage may vary when it comes to one particular game on one particular platform. In most cases, a lot of people don't care about this particular piece of downloadable content being exclusive to one platform. They just want to play the dang game, which is pretty much true at the end of the day. It's just that little added incentive that these publishers and console manufacturers are really gunning for you to buy the game for. I did mention earlier that while multi-platform games are becoming more of the norm and console exclusive games are becoming less and less of a thing, there are still times when a console manufacturer and a third-party publisher will make a deal that shakes the gaming world. As you can surmise, this has caused a pretty big uproar, and for all the right reasons. Because when you have a series such as Street Fighter that has been multi-platform for the longest time, Street Fighter 4 in particular has been released on damn near every system possible, from PlayStation 3 to Xbox 360, PC, and heck, they even got it running on the Nintendo 3DS. Which is actually a pretty competent version. You can obviously see how this is going to impact gamers in a very negative way, especially when you have a community such as the fighting game scene where you have a lot of people out there who transcend the barriers of platforms and console exclusive loyalties to just wanting to play video games. And in some cases, going exclusive on a series that particularly was multi-platform might be a bit of a financial risk for developers such as Crystal Dynamics. Crystal Dynamics has gone on record to say that it took them a very long time to turn a profit on the brand new Tomb Raider game. It wasn't until they re-released the game on PlayStation 4 and Xbox One that they apparently started to make a profit on their game. You can open up a discussion on whether or not the budget for video games are just getting too gosh darn high, or you can take this discussion in an alternate route and we can talk about the relationship between SQUARE-ENIX, Crystal, and Microsoft. Microsoft is indeed going to be publishing Rise of the Tomb Raider on the Xbox platforms. However, Square-Enix and Crystal Dynamics did not throw the possibility of the games appearing on other platforms. They just simply said they had an agreement with Microsoft, it's a yearly duration, so is there a chance we're probably going to see these games show up on other platforms? At some point, is there a chance we're not going to see them show up on platforms? Possibly not. But at the end of the day, you really have to read between the lines when it comes to these deals. Most cases, these developers only have a particular deal for this game, because when you look at game development and how it relates to when the game is released, in a lot of cases, developers make back the bulk of their money, the bulk of their interest is on the game when it first releases in the first 2, 3, 4 to 6 months of the game's lifespan. Of course, the mileage may vary from franchise to franchise, from individual game to individual game, to public interest in one region to another, but I think you get my gist. And of course comes my opinion piece on all of this nonsense. When it comes to these sort of things, honestly, as a gamer who owns multiple platforms and who wants to play the very best of everything, it doesn't really bother me because I'm going to own every platform at some point, provided they have a lot of good games that I want to play. However, to play devil's advocate, I can see how this is a major issue, especially in cases where really it doesn't make sense for this game to be exclusive to one platform. In the case of Tomb Raider, if you had such a financial risk with the game being on 3 platforms when it launched, what in the world is the point of making it exclusive to one platform that really the Xbox One isn't doing phenomenally well? Granted, it's still, you know, having good sales and such, but when you look at it compared to its competition and such, it's still kind of anemic. Obviously, there were some backroom deals and under-the-table stuff when it came to Microsoft publishing the game on the platform. They probably paid for the advertising of it, which isn't necessarily a bad thing at all. It is a business at the end of the day. So if this is going to be their way to try to combat Sony's Uncharted franchise by putting their game out on Xbox One, and if they're really going to take their time to make sure the game is fully optimized for the system, running the best that it will be, and of course getting it out there to people saying, hey, this is a great game, come support the game, then hey, I'm all for it. Likewise, when you jump over to Street Fighter V and Sony, it's probably the same thing. Sony decided to, in Capcom's financial rut that they are in, which to this day we do not fully know the exact details of how deep in the hole they are, they probably said the same thing. Hey, let us help you develop this game, let us make sure it's the best possible version of the game. The same vision that you are thinking in your head is gonna be exactly the same thing when you see it on PlayStation 4. But there are some differences at the end of the day. Of course, with Rise of the Tomb Raider, it's all up there and it's pretty ambiguous whether or not it'll come to PlayStation 4 or PC. But with Street Fighter V, it's console exclusive for life on PlayStation 4. And it's also going to be released on PC. So if you don't own a PlayStation 4, well, you already know what your alternative is going to be. And I'll end off this video with leaving you guys with this little piece of advice. This is a business at the end of the day. So these developers and publishers are going to go to where they can get the very best deal for them to make their games. And while it is a business, it's not all tears and doom and gloom. In some cases, they can see down the line that, hey, maybe we can actually release this game on multiple platforms. Of course, there are some exceptions to the rule, like Mass Effect. Mass Effect was originally an Xbox 360 exclusive, but down the line, it was released on basically all platforms that weren't Nintendo systems. So comes the end of another episode of One Truth Prevails. Exclusives, multiplats, their relevance to the industry. What do you guys think about it? Comment down below. I'm a GS signing out, and like always, one truth prevails.